The massive warship Dominion's Edge floated through the dark void of space like a sleeping giant. Its hull stretched for over 2 miles, covered in sharp metal spikes and glowing weapon ports. This was not just any ship. This was the flagship of the mighty Veilon Empire, and it had never lost a single battle. Captain Vex stood on the bridge, his tall reptilian form casting a long shadow across the command deck. His yellow eyes glowed with pride as he looked out at the stars. Behind him, dozens of alien crew members worked at their stations. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms, while others appeared to be made of living crystal that sparkled in the dim light. "Sir, we are approaching the outer edge of Sector 847, reported Commander Kale, a 4-armed insectoid from the hive species. His voice buzzed slightly when he spoke, and his compound eyes reflected the light from the control panels. "Good," Vex replied, his forked tongue flicking out briefly. "Another sector to add to our empire. How many star systems does this make?" 847 confirmed conquests, sir," answered Sub-Commander Nex, a tall crystalline being whose body chimed softly when she moved. "No species has ever resisted us for more than 3 days." Vex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This was exactly what he liked to hear. For over 2,000 years, the Veilon Empire had been unstoppable. They were the perfect combination of 3 deadly species. The Veilon themselves were master war planners, able to think 10 steps ahead of any enemy. The hive could coordinate thousands of ships at once, moving like one giant mind, and the Nexari could create energy weapons that could crack planets in, half together. They had crushed every species they had ever met. Some tried to fight back, but it never lasted long. Others begged for mercy, but the Veilon Empire showed none. They believed in one simple rule: the strong survive, and the weak serve. "Captain," called out Tech Officer Hex from his station. "Long range sensors are picking up something unusual." Vex turned his attention to the main screen. A small blip appeared at the edge of their sensor range. It was moving slowly through space, clearly not trying to hide. "What is it?" Vex asked, walking closer to get a better look. "Unknown vessel, sir. Small class, maybe 800 feet long. Very basic design. It appears to be some kind of exploration ship," Hex reported, his fingers dancing over the crystal controls. Vex laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Another primitive species trying to explore the galaxy. How cute. The other officers on the bridge joined in the laughter. They had seen this so many times before. Some young species would build their first real spaceship and think they were ready to explore the universe. They never realized they were swimming with sharks. "Should we destroy it immediately, sir?" asked Commander Kale, already reaching for the weapons controls. No, Vex said, holding up a clawed hand. "Where's the fun in that? Let's have some sport with them first. I want to see how long it takes them to wet themselves when they see us." This was Vex's favorite game. He liked to let new species see the full power of the Veilon Empire before crushing them. It made the victory more satisfying, and it sent a clear message to any other species watching. Do not mess with the Veilon Empire. Helm, set course for the YI. Unknown vessel. Communications, try to make contact with them. Let's see what these new pets have to say, Vex ordered. The Dominion's Edge changed direction smoothly, its massive engines glowing brighter. Behind it, 11 other Veilon warships followed in perfect formation. Each ship was deadly enough to destroy entire fleets, and together they formed the most feared battle group in the galaxy. As they got closer to the unknown ship, the bridge crew began to study it more carefully. The vessel was indeed small compared to their massive warships. Its design looked simple and functional, with no obvious weapons visible. It appeared to be painted in basic white and blue colors, with strange symbols on its hull. "Sir, I'm reading very basic energy signatures from the ship. Minimal shields, basic propulsion, no heavy weapons that I can detect," reported Tech Officer Hex. "Of course not," Vex said with another laugh. "Probably their first time leaving their home planet. I almost feel sorry for them." Almost. The truth was, Vex felt no pity at all. In his long career, he had personally overseen the conquest of over 50 different species. Some had been peaceful explorers just like this one. Others had been warriors, who fought bravely to the end. It made no difference to him. They all ended up the same way, either dead or serving the Veilon Empire. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel," announced Communications Officer Rex. "Put it on screen. Let's see what these creatures look like," Vex said, settling back into his command chair. The main screen flickered and then showed the bridge of the alien ship. Vex leaned forward with interest. The beings on the other ship looked strange. They were about the right size, maybe a little smaller than a Veilon. They had smooth skin instead of scales, and hair growing from the tops of their heads. Their eyes were small and round, not at all threatening. "This is Captain Ross of the exploration vessel Wanderer," said the being in the center of the screen. His voice was calm and steady. "We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact with your species." The bridge of the Dominion's edge erupted in laughter again. Commander Kale was laughing so hard that his insect-like body was shaking. Sub-Commander Nex's crystalline form was chiming like wind chimes in a storm. "Peace," Vex roared with laughter. "They come in peace. Oh, that's rich. That's absolutely rich." He stood up from his chair and walked closer to the screen, looking directly at the alien captain. "Let me explain something to you, little creature. I am Captain Vex of the Veilon Empire. We do not make friends. We make conquests. You have exactly one choice: surrender now or be destroyed." The alien captain, Ross, looked back at him without any fear in his eyes. This surprised Vex a little. Most species started panicking by now. "I understand your position," Ross said calmly, "but I'm afraid we cannot surrender. We have our own duties to fulfill." Vex's eyes narrowed. Was this creature actually refusing him? That was unexpected. "Perhaps you don't understand the situation," Vex said, his voice becoming more dangerous. "Communications, show them our full battle group." The screen split to show the exterior view. 12 massive Veilon warships surrounded the tiny exploration vessel like wolves circling a rabbit. Each ship bristled with weapons and glowed with deadly energy. "This is the 7th battle group of the Veilon Imperial Fleet," Vex announced. "We have conquered 847 star systems. We have destroyed millions of ships. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. Now, do you still refuse to surrender?" Captain Ross looked at the display showing the massive alien warships surrounding his small vessel. For a long moment he was quiet. Then he spoke again, and his voice was still perfectly calm. "We need 24 hours to prepare our people. Will you grant us that time?" Vex was so surprised that he almost laughed again. This primitive creature was asking for time to prepare? What could they possibly prepare that would make any difference? "Very well," Vex said, amused by the alien's pointless request. 24 hours. Use them wisely, little creature. They will be your last." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. Vex looked around at his crew, all of whom seemed as puzzled as he was. "Sir," Commander Kale asked, "what do you think they're going to do in 24 hours? Vex shrugged his massive shoulders. "Probably pray to whatever gods they worship. Maybe write farewell messages to their families. It doesn't matter. In one day they'll either surrender or die." He settled back into his command chair, completely confident in his superiority. After all, what could one small exploration ship possibly do against the might of the Veilon Empire? In 24 hours, this would all be over, and they would have another conquered species to add to their collection. What Captain Vex didn't know was that he had just made the biggest mistake of his very long life. Captain Vex paced back and forth on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. 12 hours had passed since he had given the humans their deadline, and something was bothering him. He couldn't quite figure out what it was. "Commander Kale," he called out to his insectoid second-in-command. "What are the humans doing now?" Kale's compound eyes focused on his monitoring station. "The same things they've been doing for hours, sir. They're checking their systems, talking to their families, holding meetings about their situation." "Show." "Me," Vex ordered. The main screen displayed the interior of the human ship. Captain Ross was sitting in what appeared to be a small conference room with several of his officers. They were looking at data screens and talking quietly. "Can we hear what they're saying?" Vex asked. "Yes, sir," replied Communications Officer Rex. "They're discussing possible escape routes, but they keep concluding that there aren't any. They seem resigned to their fate." Vex nodded, but the feeling of unease remained. In his long career, he had seen many species face their final hours. Some panicked and ran around screaming. Others begged and pleaded for mercy. A few tried desperate attacks that always failed quickly. But these humans were different. They weren't panicking or begging. They weren't even trying to escape. They were just calm. Too calm. "Sir," called out Tech Officer Hex from his station, "I'm monitoring their communications to their home planet. Do you want to hear their latest message?" "Yes, put it on speaker." The bridge filled with Captain Ross's voice as he spoke into his communication device. "This is Captain Ross reporting to Colonial Defense Command. We have encountered a hostile alien empire calling themselves the Veilon. 12 warships, advanced technology, overwhelming firepower. They've given us 24 hours to surrender. We won't be doing that. Tell Command we are implementing Protocol 7. Wanderer out." The message ended, and the bridge fell silent. Vex felt his unease grow stronger. "Protocol 7, he muttered. "What do you think that means?" Sub-Commander Nex, her crystalline body chiming softly, looked up from her station. "Probably some kind of procedure for dying with honor, sir. Many primitive species have rituals for facing death." "Maybe," Vex said, but he wasn't convinced. "Rex, have we intercepted any other communications?" "Several, sir. The humans have been sending personal messages to their families. Most of them are strange." "Strange how?" Rex activated his console, and another human voice filled the bridge. It was Lieutenant Blake, the communications officer they had seen earlier. "Hi, Mom, it's me. Just wanted to let you know that we've run into some trouble out here. Nothing we can't handle, but it might be a while before I can call again. Don't worry about me. You know how good I am at my job. Give my love to Dad and tell him his advice about patience finally paid off. I'll see you soon. Love you." Vex frowned. She said, "Nothing we can't handle." That doesn't sound like someone who's about to die. Another message played, this one from Dr. Wells. "Hello, Martha. We've encountered those aliens I told you about in my last letter, the ones from the intelligence reports. They're exactly as described, powerful, but predictable. My research here is almost complete. I think Command will be very interested in what we've learned. Kiss the grandchildren for me." "Intelligence reports?" Vex said, his voice rising. "What intelligence reports? And what research?" Commander Kale's antennae twitched nervously. "Sir, maybe they're just trying to sound brave for their families?" "Play another one," Vex ordered. This time it was Commander Price's voice. "Tom, it's Anna. I can't say much, but the mission is going exactly as planned. The targets have taken the bait perfectly. Tell the kids that Mommy's hunting trip is almost over, and I'll be home with some very interesting stories." The prey walked right into the trap. The bridge erupted in confused chatter. Vex held up a clawed hand for silence, his mind racing. Bait? Trap? Prey? These didn't sound like the words of helpless explorers. "Rex, play that message from their captain again, the one about Protocol 7. They listened to Captain Ross's message again, and this time Vex noticed something he had missed before. The human's voice wasn't scared or desperate. It was calm, professional almost. "Pleased, sir?" Tech Officer Hex called out urgently. "I'm detecting some unusual activity from the human ship." "What kind of activity?" "Their power systems are fluctuating in strange patterns, and I'm picking up some kind of internal construction work. It sounds like they're building something." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Building what?" "I can't tell, sir. The work is happening in sections of their ship that our sensors can't penetrate properly. But there's definitely activity going on that they're trying to hide from us." For the first time since this encounter began, Vex felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Doubt. These humans weren't behaving like any species he had ever conquered. They were too calm, too organized, too prepared. Kale, how many hours are left on their deadline? 11 hours and 37 minutes, sir. Sir, interrupted navigation. Officer Zek, I'm detecting some strange sensor readings from the outer edge of this system. What kind of readings? Faint energy signatures, sir. Very faint. Almost like there are ships out there running on minimum power. Vex felt a chill run down his spine. How many ships? I can't be sure, sir. The readings are too weak. Could be sensor ghosts or space debris or ships trying to stay hidden. Vex finished. The bridge fell silent again. Vex looked around at his crew, seeing his own growing concern reflected in their faces. The insectoid hive officers were clicking their mandibles nervously. The crystalline Nexari were chiming in worried harmonies. Sir, Commander Kale said quietly, should we contact the other ships in our battle group? Yes. Tell them to increase their sensor sweeps. I want to know if there's anything else out there. As Kale sent the orders, Vex continued to pace. Something was very wrong here. These humans weren't acting like prey at all. They were acting like hunters. Sir, incoming message from the human ship, Rex announced. Put it on screen. Captain. Ross appeared again, still sitting calmly in his command chair. Captain Vex, I hope you don't mind, but we've been studying your ships while we wait. Very impressive designs. We've learned quite a lot. You've been studying us? Vex snarled. Of course. We're explorers, after all. It's what we do. We explore. We learn, we report back to our people. Speaking of which, I should mention that our reports have been very detailed. Earth now knows everything about your battle group. Your weapons, your formations, your tactics, even your individual ship designs. Vex felt his blood run cold. What are you saying? Ross smiled for the first time since their conversations began. It wasn't a friendly smile. I'm saying that you might want to reconsider who's hunting whom, Captain Vex. You see, we humans have a saying, know your enemy. And now we know you very well indeed. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sir, whispered Tech Officer Hex, those energy readings from the outer system? They're getting stronger. Vex stared at the blank screen where Ross's face had been. For 2,000 years, the Veilon Empire had been the hunters, and every other species had been their prey. The idea that the roles might be reversed was almost impossible to imagine. But as he looked at the growing concern on his crew's faces and listened to reports of mysterious energy signatures in the darkness of space, Captain Vex began to suspect that the Veilon Empire might have finally met their match, and there were still 11 hours left until the deadline. Captain Ross closed the communication channel and turned away from the main screen. The bridge of the Wanderer was much smaller than the alien flagship they had just seen, but every person at their station remained calm and focused. No one was panicking, despite being surrounded by 12 massive warships that could destroy them in seconds. Well, that went about as expected, Ross said quietly, walking over to his command chair. He was a tall man with graying hair and steady blue eyes. His uniform was simple and practical, nothing fancy or decorated. They're exactly like the intelligence reports said they would be. Lieutenant Blake, the ship's communications officer, looked up from her station. She was a young woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. Sir, should I send the message to command? Not yet, Ross replied, settling into his chair. Let's see what else we can learn first. These Veilons seem to like talking about themselves. On the other side of the bridge, Dr. Wells was studying the alien ships through the ship's sensors. He was an older man with white hair and thick glasses, the ship's chief science officer. Captain, these vessels are impressive, but their technology isn't as advanced as they think it is. Their weapons are powerful, but crude. Their shields are strong, but wasteful of energy. Interesting, Ross said. What about their formation? Classic intimidation pattern, answered Commander Price, the ship's tactical officer. She was a stern-looking woman with black hair pulled back tightly. They're trying to look scary rather than being tactically smart. If this were a real fight, they'd be vulnerable from at least 3 different angles. Ross nodded slowly. These observations matched what Earth's intelligence services had been reporting for months. The Veilon Empire was powerful, but they had grown lazy from easy victories. They relied on fear and overwhelming force rather than skill or strategy. "Sir," Blake called out, "I'm picking up communications between the alien ships. They're not even trying to encrypt them." "What are they saying?" Ross asked. Blake listened to her earpiece for a moment, then looked up with a slight smile. "They're making jokes about us, sir, calling us primitives and pets. One of them is betting that we'll start crying within the hour." Several members of the bridge crew chuckled quietly. Ross allowed himself a small smile as well. The Veilon's arrogance was actually helpful. Overconfident enemies made mistakes, and mistakes could be exploited. "Captain," Dr. Wells said, looking up from his sensors, "I'm detecting some interesting things about their ship designs. They've got some weak points that might be useful to know about." "Save it for the report, Doctor," Ross said. "Right now, we need to focus on our performance. Remember, we're supposed to be a simple exploration ship." This was the tricky part. The Wanderer was indeed disguised as an exploration vessel, but it was actually something much more dangerous. For the disguise to work, Ross and his crew had to act exactly like peaceful explorers would act in this situation. They couldn't appear too calm or too prepared, or the Veilon might get suspicious. "Blake, open a channel to the lead ship again," Ross ordered. The screen flickered to life, showing Captain Vex's reptilian face. The alien looked amused, like he was watching an entertaining show. "Have you decided to surrender already?" Vex asked with a laugh. "That would be wise." "I wanted to ask about your empire," Ross said, trying to sound nervous and curious. "You said you've conquered 847 star systems. That's incredible. How long did that take?" Vex's chest puffed out with pride. "Over 2,000 years of glorious conquest. We are the greatest military force this galaxy has ever seen. No species has ever defeated us in battle." "Amazing," Ross said, shaking his head in fake wonder. "And you work together? 3 different species?" "The perfect combination," Vex boasted. "Veilon strategy, hive coordination, and Nexari firepower. We are unstoppable." "I can see that," Ross replied. "Your ships are enormous. Our entire fleet back home probably isn't as big as just one of your vessels." This was technically true, but not in the way Vex thought. Human ships were built for efficiency and effectiveness, not size and intimidation. "Of course they aren't," Vex said with another laugh. "Primitive species always build small, weak ships. That's why they get conquered so easily." "Have you conquered many species recently?" Ross asked, still playing the part of the curious explorer. "Just last month we finished with a species called the Krell," Vex said proudly. "They thought their crystal cities made them special. It took us 2 days to turn their cities into dust." Ross kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt a cold anger. The Krell had been one of Earth's potential allies. Intelligence reports said the Veilon had killed over 6 billion Krell civilians during their conquest. 2 days, Ross repeated. "That's very efficient." "We are always efficient," Vex replied. "That's why I'm giving you 24 hours. Most species get much less time to accept their fate. We appreciate your generosity," Ross said carefully. After the communication ended, the bridge was quiet for a moment. Finally, Lieutenant Blake spoke up. "Sir, that was hard to listen to. The Krell were good people." "I know," Ross said quietly. "That's why we're here." Commander Price looked up from her tactical station. "Captain, should we begin preparations?" "Not yet," Ross replied. "We need to let them watch us for a while first. They expect us to either panic or try to run. We need to give them what they expect to see." For the next several hours, the Wanderer played its part perfectly. The crew sent messages to their families on Earth, explaining the situation in worried voices. They ran diagnostics on their systems, as if looking for some way to escape. They held meetings where they discussed their impossible situation in hushed, frightened tones. All of this was being monitored by the Veilon ships, exactly as Ross intended. The aliens were seeing exactly what they expected to see: a helpless exploration crew facing their doom. But not everything the humans did was for show. While some crew members were playing their parts, others were working in sections of the ship that the Veilon sensors couldn't detect. They were making real preparations, but not the kind the aliens would expect. Dr. Wells was in his lab, making final adjustments to several devices that definitely didn't belong on an exploration ship. Commander Price was in the armory, checking weapons that were hidden behind false walls. Engineering teams were working on systems that the Veilon had no idea existed. "Sir," Blake called out after several hours had passed, "the aliens are getting restless. They keep asking each other when we're going to start begging for mercy." "Let them wonder," Ross said. "How much time do we have left?" 18 hours. "Sir?" "Good. Send the message to command now. Use the standard exploration frequency, but include the special coding." Blake nodded and began working at her communications station. To any alien listening, it would sound like a routine message to Earth's exploration headquarters. But hidden in the message was information that would be very interesting to Earth's Colonial Defense Force. "Message sent, sir," Blake reported. "Excellent. Now we wait." "For what, Captain?" asked Dr. Wells. Ross looked out at the alien fleet surrounding them. 12 massive warships, thousands of alien crew members, enough firepower to destroy planets. The Veilon Empire's finest, proud and confident in their superiority. For them to realize they've made a terrible mistake, Ross said quietly. The Veilon had no idea that their 24-hour deadline wasn't just time for the humans to prepare to die. It was time for much larger preparations to be completed. Preparations that had been months in the making. The Wanderer continued its act, playing the part of a doomed exploration ship. But hidden in the depths of space, other ships were moving. Ships that weren't explorers at all. The Veilon Empire was about to learn that humans could be very, very patient when they were hunting. The 24-hour deadline was only 30 minutes away. Captain Vex stood on the bridge of the Dominion's edge, watching the human ship on his main screen. For hours, he had been feeling more and more worried, and now that worry had turned into real fear. "Sir," Commander Kale reported, his insect voice shaking slightly. "Those energy readings from the outer system are much stronger now. I count at least 20 separate signatures." 20? Vex's voice cracked. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir." "And they're moving closer." Tech Officer Hex looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, I'm detecting massive power buildups throughout this entire system. Whatever's out there, it's been hiding and now it's waking up." Vex felt his hands tremble as he gripped his command chair. This was wrong. Everything about this situation was wrong. The humans should be crying and begging by now. Instead, their ship was just sitting there calmly, as if they were waiting for something. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel," Communications Officer Rex announced. "Put it on screen," Vex ordered, though he wasn't sure he wanted to see what Captain Ross had to say. The screen flickered to life, but something was different. The bridge of the human ship looked changed. Equipment that hadn't been visible before was now active and glowing. Crew members were moving with military precision instead of the nervous scrambling they had shown earlier. Captain Ross appeared on screen, but he wasn't wearing the simple exploration uniform anymore. Now he wore dark military clothing with rank insignia that Vex didn't recognize. His calm expression had been replaced by something much more dangerous. "Captain Vex," Ross said, his voice completely different now. Gone was the nervous explorer. This voice belonged to a predator. "I think it's time we had an honest conversation." What is the meaning of this?" Vex stammered. Ross smiled coldly. "The meaning is that you've been played, Captain. Everything you think you know about this encounter is wrong." As Ross spoke, the human ship began to change before their eyes. Parts of the outer hull started moving, sliding away like petals on a flower. Underneath was revealed a sleek, black surface covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays. "What you've been looking at for the past 24 hours isn't the exploration vessel Wanderer," Ross continued. "That was just a disguise. Allow me to introduce the real ship." More of the fake hull peeled away, revealing angular weapon systems and armor plating that looked nothing like the peaceful exploration ship they had first seen. Strange symbols glowed along the hull, symbols that looked like they belonged on a warship, not a research vessel. "This is the Colonial Defense Force vessel Harbinger," Ross announced. "And I am Admiral Ross, not Captain. We are not explorers. Captain Vex, we are hunters." The bridge of the Dominion's edge erupted in shocked voices. Commander Kale's antennae were twitching wildly. Sub-Commander Nex was chiming in distress. Tech Officer Hex was frantically working at his controls. "Impossible!" Vex shouted. "You're just one small ship. We have 12 warships." "Do you?" Ross asked with a dangerous smile. "Look around you, Captain. Look very carefully." On cue, space around the Veilon fleet began to shimmer. One by one, massive shapes began appearing out of nowhere. Human warships, dozens of them, materializing from what had seemed like empty space. They had been there all along, hidden by some kind of advanced stealth technology. Each human ship was smaller than the Veilon vessels, but they moved with deadly grace. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in weapons that were already powering up. Strange blue energy danced along their surfaces. "Stealth technology," Vex whispered in horror. "They've been surrounding us this whole time." "For 3 days, actually," Ross said casually. "We've been tracking your battle group since you entered the system. Every move you've made, every formation you've used, every weakness in your defenses, we've been studying it all." More human ships continued to appear until the Veilon fleet was completely surrounded. Vex counted 43 enemy vessels, and more were still materializing. But you're primitives," Vex protested. "Your technology is supposed to be basic." Ross laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "That's what we wanted you to think. You see, Captain, we've been hunting your empire for 3 years now, ever since you started attacking our colonies." "Your colonies?" Vex's eyes went wide. "Oh yes, the settlements on Kepler 442b. Those were human colonies. The research station, on Wolf 359, ours too. The mining operation in the Vega system, also ours." Ross's voice grew colder with each word. "You've been murdering our people for 3 years, thinking they were just random primitive species." The truth hit Vex like a physical blow. All those easy conquests, all those primitive settlements they had destroyed, they had been attacking the same species over and over again. And that species had been learning from each attack, studying them, preparing. "Every time you hit one of our colonies, we learned more about you," Ross continued. "Your weapons, your tactics, your arrogance. We studied you like scientists study insects. And then we set a trap." "The Wanderer," Vex said weakly, "was bait. We knew your empire couldn't resist attacking what looked like a helpless exploration ship, so we disguised one of our most advanced warships and waited for you to come to us." Commander Kale turned to Vex, his compound eyes filled with panic. "Sir, what are your orders?" Vex looked around at the human fleet surrounding them. 43 warships against 12. Advanced stealth technology, weapons that were already targeting his ships, and worst of all, an enemy that had been studying them for years while they remained completely ignorant. "Sir, they're powering weapons," Tech Officer Hex shouted. Ross appeared on screen one final time. "Captain Vex, you said your empire has conquered 8 to 47 star systems in 2,000 years. Very impressive. But you made one critical mistake." "What mistake?" Vex asked, though he dreaded the answer. "You assumed that because we looked primitive, we actually were primitive. You confused technology with intelligence, size with strength, age with wisdom." Ross leaned forward. "Let me tell you something about humans, Captain. We are a species that spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war against our own kind. We turned deception into a science. We made strategy into an art form. And we never ever stopped learning from our enemies. The weapons on the human ships were now glowing brightly, ready to fire. You wanted to add humanity to your list of conquered species," Ross said. "Instead, you're about to become the first species we've decided to stop." Vex opened his mouth to give orders, to fight, to run, to surrender, but no words came out. For the first time in his long military career, He was facing an enemy that had outsmarted him completely. The hunt was over. But the Veilon Empire had been the prey all along. The first human weapon fired with a sound like thunder, splitting the void. A beam of brilliant blue energy struck the Veilon cruiser Iron Fang, and the massive alien ship's shields flared bright orange before collapsing completely. The beam continued, through the hull like it was made of paper, cutting the ship cleanly in half. Captain Vex watched in horror as one of his most powerful vessels died in a single shot. All ships, return fire now. The Veilon fleet responded immediately, their massive weapons blazing to life. Streams of plasma and particle beams lanced out toward the human ships, enough firepower to destroy entire planets. But something impossible happened. The human vessels simply weren't there anymore. Where did they go? Commander Kale screamed, his insect eyes darting frantically across his screens. They're moving too fast, Tech Officer Hex reported. Our targeting systems can't lock onto them. The human ships danced through space like deadly shadows, their smaller size allowing them to move with impossible speed and grace. They appeared behind Veilon vessels, fired devastating shots, then vanished again before the aliens could respond. It was like fighting ghosts. Another Veilon ship, the heavy destroyer Bone Crusher, exploded in a brilliant fireball as 3 human vessels coordinated their attack. The aliens' proud formation was falling apart as ships tried to turn and fire at enemies that moved like quicksilver. Sir, the humans are using some kind of advanced maneuvering system, Hex called out over the noise of battle. Their ships can change direction instantly without slowing down. Vex gripped his command chair as the Dominion's edge shook from near misses. Around him, his bridge crew was panicking. These weren't the easy battles they were used to. This was a nightmare. Kale, order all ships to form defensive formation pattern 7, Vex shouted. I'm trying, sir, but 3 ships aren't responding. I think they're already dead. On the main screen, Admiral Ross appeared again. His ship, the Harbinger, was moving through the battle like a predator among prey. Its weapons fired with deadly precision, each shot finding exactly the right spot to cripple or destroy a Veilon vessel. Captain Vex, Ross said calmly, as if they were having a casual conversation instead of fighting a space battle. Are you beginning to understand now? Understand what? Vex snarled, even as another of his ships died in the background. The difference between a warrior and a bully, Ross replied. Your empire has spent 2,000 years beating up species that couldn't fight back. You've forgotten what real combat looks like. A human fighter squadron screamed past the main screen, their small ships moving so fast they were just streaks of light. They swarmed around the Veilon battleship Death's Head like angry insects, their weapons finding weak points in the armor that the aliens didn't even know existed. Your weapons are powerful but slow, Ross continued, his ship dodging a massive plasma blast that would have vaporized any other vessel. Your shields are strong but inefficient. Your tactics are from a textbook written 1,000 years ago. The Death's Head tried to swat the human fighters with its point defense systems, but they moved in patterns that seemed impossible. They flew in formation so tight that they looked like a single organism, coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. But worst of all, Ross said, as the Death's Head finally succumbed to the swarming attack, you've grown soft. You expect your enemies to be afraid of you. You've forgotten that the most dangerous predators are the ones that hunt other predators. Sub-Commander Nex, her crystalline body chiming in terror, looked up from her station. Sir, we've lost 7 ships in 10 minutes. Vex couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Veilon Empire's most elite battle group was being torn apart by a force half their size. It should have been impossible. Sir, incoming priority message from Admiral. Core on the Titan's Wrath, Rex called out. Put him on screen. The image split to show Admiral Core, the commander of the 2nd Battle Group. His reptilian face was filled with panic. Vex, we're under attack. Human ships appeared out of nowhere. They're destroying everything. What? Your 3 systems. Away, Vex shouted. They hit us at the same time they hit you. This was coordinated. There are human fleets everywhere. The transmission cut to static as the Titan's Wrath exploded in the distance. Admiral Ross smiled coldly. Did you really think we'd only send 1 fleet to deal with you? We've been tracking all of your battle groups for months. Today we're hitting 12 different Veilon fleets simultaneously across 6 star systems. Vex felt his world crumbling. Around him, the Veilon Empire's entire military was under attack at the same time. It was the most coordinated strike in galactic history. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever had this kind of coordination." "No alien species," Ross corrected. "But humans wrote the book on planetary warfare. We've been fighting massive coordinated battles for thousands of years. What you're experiencing right now is just a Tuesday for us." Another explosion rocked the Dominion's edge as human weapons found their mark. The ship's mighty shields, which had never failed in 2 centuries of combat, flickered and died. "Sir, shields are down. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 12, Hex reported. Commander Kale turned to Vex, his compound eyes reflecting the fires burning throughout the ship. "Sir, we have to surrender. We can't win this." "The Veilon Empire does not surrender," Vex roared, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then, the Veilon Empire dies," Ross said simply. Around them, the last few Veilon ships were fighting desperately, but it was hopeless. The humans moved like they were reading their enemies' minds, anticipating every move, countering every tactic. It wasn't just superior technology, it was superior thinking. "Sir, emergency transmission coming in from Veilon Prime," Rex called out urgently. "Put it through." The aged face of Supreme Commander Thex appeared on screen, his yellow eyes wide with terror. "All battle groups retreat immediately. The humans have reached our home system. They're attacking the capital." "What?" Vex couldn't process what he was hearing. 60 human fleets just appeared out of hyperspace around Veilon Prime. "They demand our complete surrender or they will destroy our entire civilization. All forces are ordered to lay down arms immediately." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Ross appeared one final time. "It's over, Captain Vex. Your Empire's 2,000-year reign of terror ends today. You have one choice. Surrender now and live or die with your ship." Vex looked around his burning bridge. His crew was looking at him with desperate hope, waiting for him to save them. Outside, the human fleet waited patiently for his answer. For the first time in his life, the mighty Captain Vex, terror of the galaxy, apex predator of the stars, did something he had never done before. He surrendered. "This is Captain Vex of the Veilon Imperial Fleet," he said quietly. We surrender." As his weapons powered down, and his remaining ships followed suit, Vex realized the truth that would haunt him forever. The galaxy had new apex predators now, and they were called humans.